In this video, I'll show you when to replace the coolant in your car and how to do it smartly and properly, including one crucial step so that the whole system doesn't boil over during the first start. I'll also tell you what's strictly not to do and how to make sure the temperature in your machine always stays within normal range. Now, let's get to work. Let's start with the most important part. When do you need to change your coolant, and do you even need to do it at all? I have my old coolant here that I drained from my car, and I can tell you right away that the belief that coolant lasts forever is one of the most common and costly maintenance mistakes. Coolant isn't just water and glycol to prevent freezing. It's primarily a package of anti-corrosion additives, rust inhibitors, and lubricants for the water pump. A weak tea color or a brownish tint is a red flag. It means that the corrosion inhibitor package in the old fluid has been completely exhausted. Without chemical protection, the hot water has started reacting with the metal components of the engine, the cast iron block, steel pipes, and coolant lines. That brown color is oxidized metal particles and a rusty slurry circulating throughout the entire system. Old coolant might still not freeze in the winter, but it has stopped protecting the engine from corrosion and turns into a slow-acting acid that clogs the heater core, causing a loss of heat in the cabin, and destroys the radiators. To sum up, do you need to replace your coolant? The answer is a definitive yes, and under normal driving conditions, you should do it roughly every 3 years. Now, I'm going to show you how to do it right, at home, by yourself. The car I'll be working on is a 3-liter BMW E61, but you can change the coolant in any other car model in the exact same way. Before we start changing the coolant, I should mention that you can further boost the effect of the fluid change by doing a cooling system flush beforehand, which removes all the buildup inside. However, I recorded a separate video on that topic because it's definitely much more time-consuming and demanding. So in this video, we'll focus strictly on the coolant itself. I'm starting by placing a drain pan under the radiator drain plug and unscrewing it. I wait patiently for everything to drain out, and it's definitely going to take a moment. You can expect a few liters of fluid. So you don't waste time waiting. In the meantime, I'll prepare the proper coolant mixture. Coolant is as vital for a car as blood is for a human, which is why you need to ensure top quality for what will be circulating inside it. The exact same fluid that originally came in this car when it rolled off the assembly line is now sold as a concentrate, and it needs to be diluted in a 1-to-1 ratio with distilled water. Here's a valuable tip. Never mix it with regular tap water, as it contains large amounts of limescale, chlorine, and other deposits that we're actively trying to get rid of. High-quality coolant contains a package of corrosion inhibitors perfectly tailored to the metal alloys your engine is built from, preventing the internal water passages from deteriorating. The cheapest off-the-shelf coolants can have an aggressive chemical composition that causes plastic fittings and system seals to harden and crack prematurely. Premium coolant effectively protects against cavitation, preventing the formation of air bubbles that destroy water pump blades. By using a dedicated product, you ensure the correct boiling point and optimal heat dissipation, protecting the sensitive cylinder head from overheating. In the long run, it's pure savings, as the unique formula of a high-quality product prevents the buildup of deposits and scale that could clog your radiator or heater core. If you don't know which coolant is right for your engine, leave a comment under this video and I'll check it for you. Before we move on to the most crucial step, right now, while the cooling loop is empty, is your last chance to replace any leaking gaskets or cracked water fittings, especially when they are cheap aftermarket parts, tend to harden, crack, and leak quickly. It's also an opportunity to swap out the thermostat if your engine isn't reaching its full operating temperature, which causes it to consume significantly more fuel and degrades performance. My thermostat also needed replacing, because as you can see on the right side, it became coated with a layer of limescale that blocked it from functioning properly. In my case, during the fluid change, it was also necessary to clean the radiator because it was unfortunately in very bad shape. But luckily, it didn't cost a thing. A vacuum cleaner and a brush were all it took. If you have all of those things under control, we can take our work one step further. I poured the prepared coolant mixture into the expansion tank until it goes past the maximum mark, filling it even a bit above max, and I'll explain why in just a moment. The final and crucial step is properly bleeding the cooling system. If done incorrectly, the whole system will overheat, boil over, and burst at its weakest point. And now I'm going to show you how to guarantee you won't run into those problems. Right off the bat, you need to know 2 things. First, the entire manual bleeding process consists of 3 key steps to remove all the trapped air from the cylinder head and every other nook and cranny. Second, carrying out the full procedure takes a bit of time. In some newer cars, this can be done electronically using a diagnostic tool. But here I'm going to show you the free method that just requires taking a bit more time, the classic way. I start by unscrewing the 2 bleeder screws located on the coolant hoses, and once the air bubbles stop appearing, I tighten them back up and top off the missing coolant that naturally drained deeper into the system. Next, I screw the expansion tank cap back on, get into the car, turn the key to the ignition position for a few seconds, start the engine, and set the heater to maximum temperature at any fan speed. If you go to the front of the car now, you'll see fluid circulating in the expansion tank through the so-called small loop, which is precisely responsible for bleeding the system. At first, you'll be able to observe air bubbles and a bit of foam coming out. That means the bleeding process is underway. If you don't see this stream, it's a sign that your water pump isn't working properly and might need replacing. Now, I screw the cap back on and warm the engine up to a temperature of 71 degrees Celsius, and not a degree higher, because that's the temperature where the first EGR thermostat opens. But attention, this is very important. I let the engine warm up at idle without driving the car. The goal here is for the car to warm up slowly so that the small loop has enough time to purge as much air from the system as possible. If you drive around, the process won't be fully effective. Once it reaches 71 degrees, the first thermostat opens and I turn off the engine. Now comes another crucial step. The engine needs to cool down completely, so you have to wait a few hours to continue the rest of the bleeding process. Right now, any air that might have made its way from the first thermostat into the cylinder head has turned into steam, and due to the temperature, it won't get pumped out by the small cooling loop. That's why we wait for the engine to cool down. And while we're waiting, please leave a like and a comment so I can keep growing this channel. Thank you. After the whole engine cools off, I unscrew the expansion tank cap and check the fluid level. Right now, it's all steaming. It's still too warm to continue. Once it cools down completely, I top up the fluid, screw the cap back on, and start the car a second time. I turn the heater back on set to maximum temperature and let the car warm up this time to 89 degrees Celsius. The rules don't change. Just like before, I don't drive the car but let the engine warm up at idle instead. This gives the small cooling loop enough time to circulate all the fluid and purge the air bubbles. At 88 degrees, the main thermostat opens. After a coolant change, air bubbles tend to get trapped inside its housing and are now pushed into the cylinder head. Once again, the small loop won't be able to remove them at full operating temperature, which is why as soon as it reaches 89 degrees, I immediately shut the car off and let the engine cool down completely for a second time. Once the engine cools off, I unscrew the bleeder valves again to get rid of any remaining air trapped in the hoses, and I check the coolant level in the reservoir one last time, topping it up to sit right between the minimum and maximum marks. On the next startup, there shouldn't be any air left in the system. You can check the fluid level again after a while, as any loss at this stage could point to a leak. Also, make sure to verify that the engine reaches its full operating temperature, which will confirm that the thermostat is working properly. If you've made it this far, it means you've saved your car from one of the 7 reasons cars end up in the scrapyard prematurely. Be sure to check out the other 6 in my next video. Take care.